Today's guest is Ruth Cummings, who is a distinguished body-mind coach and renowned speaker dedicated to empowering leaders through the profound influence of embodied communication. And by emphasizing integrity, inclusion, and confidence, Ruth assists leadership teams in cultivating inspiring company cultures that ultimately drive success and engagement. So, Ruth, thank you very much for being here. How are you doing today?
Great, great. Thanks for having me. Thanks,
You're
thanks.
you're very welcome. Yeah, so I mean, if there's anything else you wanted to add to that bio, I'm happy to hear it. I know before air, we're talking about your, massage background, etc. So floor is yours if you want to add anything to that, and we can kind of get to the rest of it.
Sure. I've been a massage therapist for a long time, 32 years, and I have about, I don't know, between 48,000 and 50,000 hours of work on the body. And I have shifted that now to work with leaders and professional athletes. I've been working with professional athletes the whole time, but in a different way now as a leader, creating more compassionate leadership through where the body is stuck. I also work with teens, but I only work with a few at a time, and I'm usually full because I take teens on for like 5 to 7 years, and so we work on confidence and staying alive and finding hope. So those I've been doing that actually before I started massage, and I coach soccer for a high school level here, or I haven't done that in a couple of years, but I have 3 state championships as girls soccer and 1 state championship in girls tennis. And yeah, I have 2 kids, and just one's in college and one just graduated from college. And so I'm also a drummer. So I put those all together in what I do these days with rhythm, the body, leadership, athleticism, and I'd say just that's how my coaching is all based on positive thinking and using your body to be an environment for healing, an environment for being the best person you can be inside. So I'm a body advocate. I advocate for the body in the body mind cycle of communication.
Love it. So, given that you have such vast experience in coaching others and supporting others, this is an opportunity you get to actually flip that around and be supported. So, how can I best support you today?
Oh, I am unfocused this year and having a hard time planning for next year. I have too many offers, and sometimes it's hard for me to filter those down. So I'm looking at the ones that make the most money and the ones that aren't hard on my body, don't require too much travel, but I like to travel, um, and then I want to get my word out to as many people as possible. So I can make a list if you want of the things that I offer, and then it's been for other reasons. I traveled almost 150 days last year. And all of that was work. Well, most of it, but so that's been hard on me, but a good distraction. So yeah, so there's different levels, and so that would be great. I'm not sure if that's something that you would like to tackle.
Well, I mean, it's more about what is alive and present for you as a challenge. So, that's totally fine with me. What I'm hearing through this is really like it's a clarity question. Like I have a lot of different options. I don't really have clarity on what the best option is for me given these particular circumstances and et cetera, et cetera. Like, is that like resonates accurate for you or no?
Absolutely. The clarity of how to move forward and the clarity of what to concentrate on and what not to concentrate on. So I guess it's absolutely all clarity.
Okay.
So yeah,
So how to move forward and what to say yes to, what to say no to.
yes, what to shelve for a minute and what to just hammer. Um, yeah.
Okay. So if we start from there, right, like kind of top level question of like, okay, are you actually clear on what you want?
No, that
Okay.
has drastically changed. So I'm still searching that. So here's what I want. I want to be I want to reinvent myself as someone who's not married and someone who, like, I want to reinvent myself without my husband, because so I shared with you earlier that my husband died. And so like my 25 years or so, we were married for 24, but together for a long time. And my identity is as his wife. So the identity now, I would love some coaching on creating my business now as, and my identity as just me. And it's been really challenging to, it's taken some time. I just took off my rings, for example, like last week. And that took, and it's really hard to just step into this role. I'm just really, quarter of my life. It's hard to know who I am, without that label. And so the things that show up are, he used to defend me. He would tell me, he would encourage me. He would he would coach me like, okay, let's do this, let's do this, let's. And he was that piece of the business. So he was the planner. He would make the decisions on finances, um, and then if he heard something that was out of line, he would tell me behind the scenes, and then I would uh, craft some things to say to the person. So all those things are gone, and I have coaches. I work with coaches. I have for actually they were on the phone with me when we got his diagnosis, um, and we were on a call, and so they've seen us through this whole process. But the yeah, this next level has been challenging. And I think that, like, if anybody has lost a spouse, so like for me, I have been moving and moving and moving, not like my body, I mean, like I'm living in the same place, but when I mean, I'm just, I'm in motion most of the time. So that's the way that I am, um, you know, deflecting the grief and taking it bite size at a time. But it definitely has affected. I mean, how could it not? Uh, my business. So I've been limping along, and still having powerful things. I've had some great events this year. I just went to an event in Austin. It was 4 days, and they're the top 1% sellers of Amazon. And that was really fun. It was at the Gatsby Mansion in Austin. It was run by Kevin King, who's an amazing facilitator and just businessman in his own right. So just, I mean, there's been a lot of positives, but I'm still unfocused, not clear on the next steps, and I'm traveling too much. I know why, right? But I want to pull that back so that it's not for that same reason. It's only for the joy of travel and to go to these events, and then like dovetail into seeing people in person. I'd rather do, I would say 12 a year, and with 2 or 3 months with nothing. So several months would be either double or triple. So September, October, November, like most entrepreneurs, is really, really powerful for me. And also around, I'd say January, February. Then I pull back, um, go on spring break with my kids, and then usually take at least, I'd say 2 other months off. So, but I chunk the times off. So like 2 weeks off, and then I'll work for 2 weeks, or chunk it in 3 weeks. And then, so I have it. Um, I'm trying to take care of my body better since that's what I coach.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing all of that. And I think the first thing I just want to stress is like any identity, like redefinition, is a hard process. One that, like, the catalyst for it is the death of someone close and then this resulting grief you have to deal with. Like, that's a whole other level of having to go through what is normally a very like complex and hard process. So I think I just want to start with acknowledging a I think you're right to point out that like, yeah, I understand why I'm doing a lot of these things and like it's hard. And yes, it is. And two, I just want to acknowledge you for like, especially in this type of context, like admitting it and being witnessed in it, because so much of grief is helped through, witnessing and shining light and kind of being supported in various different ways. So I guess the first thing I just want to, acknowledge and highlight. And then two, I actually think what do you want from the outside looking in is the wrong question for you. Because if I look at my notes with everything that you just mentioned, right? It's like, okay, we started with I'm not clear on what I want. And then that dovetailed into, well, okay, I want to reinvent myself as essentially it's just me. Like my identity, if I'm no longer a wife, the business is now just me. And then you made a list of like all the things that your husband kind of like the roles that he filled for you in your business. Like you're actually clear on, okay, this is actually where I have to evolve into. And then you're very well aware that like I'm in motion because I'm actually just trying to deflect the grief. Okay. Which again is part of that process, right? I'm traveling a lot because of that. Okay. Also clear. And then you go into this whole description of like, well, an ideal scenario, I would want to do whatever you said, the 12 events a year with a particular break, or around this time, I wouldn't really be traveling. So I'm like, the level of awareness of like where you are, what needs doing, the playing field, for lack of a better term, that you are on is like pretty clear. Now, maybe you don't know like the North Star of like, okay, this is like what my redefinition is going to look like, and that's fine. That could be under the guise of reinvention. But I think this question of like, what do I want? I like you don't sound like someone who doesn't know what they want when I initially speak to them. I think that the better question for you is like, what are you actually afraid of to go forward?
Hmm. Um, yeah, I agree with you because the clarity, my offers are also very powerful, um, and I don't feel unclear about them. So, but so the fear would be, can I do it without him? Can I do it alone? I definitely have a fear of success, and this especially this last quarter, I've been saying no to getting paid, which is horrid. Like, for my coaches, they're just like, yeah, this can't, it's behind, like just beyond frustrated. Um, and so there might be there's definitely a feeling guilty of being the one who lived. So there's some guilt about possibly being successful. And I would say, so the fear is like, yeah, worthiness. Um, do I like, like as I'm saying this to you, do I even want to do this anymore? Because it's hard and um, I'm coming in with woo woo type of, uh, that's how it's seen. And I'm talking to like high level CEOs and professional athletes, mostly men. Like most of the guys I work with are guys, So I work with a lot of female entrepreneurs, but still there is a stigma that makes it hard for me. I was coming in hot with the Amazon, for example. They're all uh, the reason I came in is because they make a lot of money, but their bodies are falling apart. That's the whole point. So when I come in, it takes a lot of energy for me to just focus and um, explain the body the way I have learned how to explain it. And then everybody's okay. Like in 20 minutes, it went really well. But those 20 minutes and the times before that, it does take, I'll tell you what, I'll tell you the truth. I was driving to this place. I'm all dressed up. They're having a mixer the night before it starts. And I almost drove past and went home. 11-hour drive. Like I just was like, oh, um, can I do this? And so I'm seriously like in the middle of this huge mansion. I'm like, and I drove past and then I turned around and then I went in and I don't know anybody there. He didn't want me to tell people what I did because he wanted it to be a surprise. So, um, yeah, I'm just feeling really vulnerable, like naked, like I don't have that protection. It's interesting, like so, and there I was still wearing my wedding rings. I wear a lot of wedding rings. I had his ring, my ring, and then a ring that says uh, "Be very strong and go fucking kill it." Excuse me, I don't know if you, but it says that, and it's so I had taken, so I was still wearing those, and I recognize that I definitely wear those as a protection. And so just last week I was willing to take those off, and so yeah, maybe not feeling strong enough in a way that's because I'm when I actually told that story after I spoke, and they were like, "What?" Because you're like you're so confident, and I speak really well, and I'm really it comes very easy to me. Um, but yeah, right now, like my I could break down and cry almost any time. So it's kind of um, yeah, it's hard to be in that space. So I'm not sure what I'm afraid of. There's a lot. I mean, what am I not afraid of at the moment? It's like I think that flipping that question is more um, possibly what am I not afraid of? Those there is not very many things right now, actually. Like I
So
start coaching calls, I'm afraid of that. Like usually, it normally in my career, it's been no big deal, but yeah, finding that courage has been a challenge.
yeah, and I think that it makes sense given everything that you've shared. Um, okay, and this is my reflection back to you, and you can let me know if it resonates or not. To me, it feels like what you're basically afraid to be is yourself without your husband.
Yes, absolutely. You know, and
Because
I got married at 30. So it wasn't like I didn't have an established everything, but still it's hard because he was just such a king, you know. It feels very naked is a great word for it.
yeah, and it's kind of like one of those things where when his presence was in your life, what I'm hearing is it's like his presence filled some of these gaps that were essentially there the whole time, but never actually needed to be addressed because he was there, he got your back, it's somebody who trusted you. And from that perspective, it was a beautiful partnership. But now you take that away, right? And if we like rewound this recording and you look into like he would encourage me, he would defend me, he would coach me, he would plan, he would do the finances, he would watch out for me, like if something went wrong. That's a lot of empowerment roles that he took on. It sounds like he took it on willingly, and it was like a good meshing of the two. Now, if his main role was this empowerment role, kind of like the anchor or the rock in, this thing that I do, you take that out, well, now if there's no anchor, I'm floating aimlessly. So I'm afraid, like, who am I without that anchor? How do I actually get grounded? Because all of the things that you described afterwards, right? I'm afraid of success. Can I do it alone? Can I do it without it? Right? I don't even want to get paid, right? And the guilt, etc. It's like, well, I don't have that anchor. I don't have the groundedness to be what I am. And it's like, obviously, I don't know you, but just the little bit that I do and have seen from him, like you are someone that comes with an extensive repertoire of experience. So there's a lot of value there. But if that value is dispersed out, like it doesn't have that anchoring power, right? So anyway, I know I'm talking about a lot of different things. What's landing for you with all of that?
Um, no, that is what I need to, or I want to um, get clear on. That's the clarity piece because it's been gone for so long, right? Like before, actually, like some of my coaching years of coaching sports, not like business coaching or I was the only female coach in my state, and like I had to stand up. Also in drumming, there aren't very many female drummers, and so like I came from this powerhouse, like don't f with me, and really stood my ground. And then with him, like I definitely took a step back and let him be the masculine in the relationship. And I am kind of missing that masculine in my um I guess in my relationship and find or in myself. Um though so I don't know if that's a good way to describe it, because it's not quite I'm definitely not afraid of being the masculine. So I'm not sure, yeah, what it is about um, allowing self-empowerment that I'm also deflecting that. Like when that comes at me, I just even look away. And
Yeah.
it's actually one of the things that I do in my work is that when I'm working with athletes or CEOs, I've recognized when they look away, and then we work on that. And I'm doing that. I can sense myself doing it when I'm coaching, when I'm presenting. There's certain subjects that I'm like, "Hmm," and and it just might not be time. It might not be. I don't know. Like there's certain steps in grief where you go, okay, now I can go in public. Okay, now I can. There's like little steps, and one of them is like obviously for me to make money. So that's something that I wish would shift soon, because I'm doing the work and then not accepting the payment. It's very interesting to me. Like
Yeah.
the
So what I would
um
reflect back to you in that instance, it's like what I'm hearing from that is this is about accepting my own empowerment, accepting my own power from a place of inspiration rather than desperation. What I mean by that is
yeah,
your first half of your life was like, I need to essentially protect my ground and I need to be in that masculine mode because it's the only way to quote unquote survive, right? I know it's like
yeah,
from a nervous system perspective, I know you understand this, like that's a survival thing. Like I'm gonna be here and I have to go and attack. It's almost like a distorted
yeah.
version of your masculine, right? And
It's a
then you get this
warrior.
breath of correct, exactly, the warrior archetype, right? Then you get this
Yeah,
breath of fresh air where you can actually surrender into your feminine, right? Because you have the
yeah,
balance with your husband. Now that that's gone, okay, well, you don't want to go back to what you were before, which makes sense because there's also like, I'm a different person, I'm in a different position. I don't necessarily need to even be there. But you've never actually had the chance or the necessity to tap into where is my own personal balance of those masculine qualities. Because everything you
I agree.
described of the roles that he filled are like the more masculine energy type roles within the business. And even the whole like you know, receiving, like I don't want to receive, like that is a wounded feminine type of quality, right? Because you're giving, you're going out, you're doing the thing, but like I'm not allowing myself to surrender to complete that cycle and actually receive. So what
Yeah.
lands you with all of that?
No, I totally agree with that. Like what's interesting is the pain in the body in my warrior armor is a very specific spot on the inside of my chest that's pulling away from the wall of the rib cage. It feels like it's pulling in and ripping away, and that's a very common grief, heartache feeling, um, that that I'm going through, but I've heard and worked on other people going through it, and now I recognize it at a much deeper level. If someone comes to me with that pain, I'm like, okay, I know what to do with this. But for me, that's what when when I try to look at that, that's where my body hurts. And so I
Mhm.
know that it is that uh, I don't want to call it. So what you said, at the wounded feminine, but it's also like, I don't know, it's like an open wound for sure. And so it's really, yeah. So I know that I can't stop because I don't think, I think that like just keep swimming from Dory. That's what I'm trying to do. And so I think in that process, so many positives. So I've met so many people and have helped so many people, and I have made money, but it's just, I've been all over the world and there's so many positives. But the negative is like, if you keep opening a wound, it just can't heal. And I haven't given myself the silence and the quiet to do that. Like when I say silence, I mean like motionless and silent. I also have ADHD, so that's why the drumming and those all worked really well for me. And massage. If anybody has ADHD, they could go do drumming and massage or personal training or coaching, really. And it has been a godsend. Those careers have been very positive for me. So I actually have to think about that too. It's like silence is not just, I have to kind of move a little bit or else I can't concentrate. But I'm getting better. I'm I'm silent more and more every day, you know. So
Good.
I don't know if that answered your question.
I mean, it did. And I think what it reveals is like what you're really saying here is what I need is the space to explore the thing that I'm afraid of, which has manifested as this physical pain in my chest that I've recognized in other people as grief. I know that's a component of it in me, but then it's also, as you know, like it generally opens up this weave of other things. So whether you do that through silence, whether you do that through movement, whether you do that through being facilitated and somebody else coaching you through it, holding space for you, whatever, those are all just different paths to get to what I think is the core thing here is I need the support by myself, with others, whatever, to create the space needed to begin to face not just what happened, but to face that in the context of who I am now, where it is that I'm going, and all of the other aspects of myself that were basically bypassed because I had this strong, like, presence beside me that was kind of filling in those gaps, right? So it's a combination of because the support system is now gone, I now can't let my past sabotage my present. So I have to reconcile those pieces which I never needed to. Then it's making peace with, okay, well, what happened and then who I am now. Cumulatively, those two processes, and I know I'm simplifying them, but like they're processes. Cumulatively, that's going to create the foundation for me to define what's next. Because it's going to be extremely hard to define who I am in this next chapter of my life if so much of my unaddressed past is still distorting how I view the present. And I think
Yeah.
that that's the big piece of like, if I do this stuff, I'm anchored in my own power, then I can actually figure out, okay, well, who am I with my power? Like in its undistorted, kind of much more authentic expression. So what lands with all of that?
No, I agree that it's nice to be able to talk it out. That uh, I haven't taken the time or space to create the space to find the support and actually look at this. And it hasn't been time, and that's okay. But I know that it's close, and I'm about to really stop traveling. I'm leaving for Portugal tomorrow, for example, and then I go from Tuscany from there. It's just like this pattern, and that's okay. I've been watching myself from myself, going, oh, that's interesting, and just allowing it to happen and allowing it to unfold and trying to be very gentle, and not move fast. Actually, I'll tell you, I do constant motion, and I'm a speedster, but I have been moving slowly and just watching, making some horrible decisions. Horrible. I mean, just like, wow, that was horrible. That's like life changing. It's terrible. Like, but that's still going, huh? Um, I don't need to do that again. And just learning from it. So that's I've been really proud of myself for actually taking risks where instead of just hiding, like coming out of my hotel room in Tuscany by myself, in Florence, things like that, like just alone. Like uh, some of my partners that were supposed to be there were 4 days late, so I just went and that took a lot of guts to just go and find things. I don't know the language, just kind of go on my own. So there's been a lot of risk and a lot of positive. Um, yeah, like that was like thinking back, like my husband, there if he's there, there's no question. You just go and you just have fun, and you're. But going alone in a country like that by yourself, that for me was a big breakthrough. And after that, I've been able to do a lot of things by myself. So there's been a lot of breakthroughs. But yeah, creating the space for support and then utilizing it instead of deflecting that as well. Actually, in Portugal, my girlfriend, we're doing an embodied leadership uh, retreat, and we gave ourselves 2 extra days. And so her husband's picking me up from the airport, and then we're going to the beach, and then like she's an amazing leadership coach, and so this is why we're meeting, is for me to be able to process. Um, so I did create 2 days. Ooh, uh, but no, I like your wording, and I agree with it.
Okay. So knowing all of that now, what is it that you think you actually want?
I want to work less but better. I want a team that I have given such clear um, uh, SOPs and such clear directions to, for lack of better language, so that my directions are so clear on how to make money that it's easy for them. They know exactly what to do. And because I had to let my team go last month, I'm like, this isn't really making sense because I'm not bringing any money, but I'm paying you guys what I used to. So, and they've been so sweet and kind of hanging out anyway and doing work anyway. And we'll get there again. But what I recognized this last year, the poor team, they were sprinting in 5 different directions because I couldn't ground myself. And so I want to have clear directions for them. I want to work less, but be extremely powerful when I go, and follow up on the many, many contacts that are wanting me to work with them. And then highly, highly take care of my body and my spirit and my mind, and have extreme uh, um, quality time with my kids.
Okay. So basically, you want to step into your own power because all of those things of like creating the business where you work less, delegating, creating the SOPs, getting paid, like accepting that, like all going to be rooted in your power, right? I
Right.
want leadership. I want to step into my own leadership because dealing with team automatically puts you in a leadership position. And then I want to work less but better. It means I want to set up the kinds of systems and business that actually powers my life so I can make basically more stress-free money.
Yes, all
Okay.
of those.
So if all that's accurate, do you think you are the kind of person that can make all of that happen right now? I'm not talking about potential. I'm talking about where I am right now with what I've shared and how I'm standing here today. Do you feel like,
Yes,
okay,
I have no doubt. That's the interesting thing. This whole time, there's been no 0% doubt. I just haven't I'm just going in circles, like on a rat's thing, whee,
Well,
spinning.
if there was no doubt, would you really be? Because again, if we rewind this, right,
Yes,
the question that kind of opened up all this was, what am I afraid of? Well, if you weren't afraid of anything, there wouldn't be any doubt. You wouldn't be on a hamster wheel.
I guess. Okay, so the lack of doubt in one area. I mean, I have doubt with everything, but the doubt I don't have is that I can make this business work.
Right. So I think what you have is belief in
Okay.
your vision. You have belief in the potential. You have belief in, like, I've done things before. I know I can do it again. And that's a beautiful thing because that's the foundation with which everything's going to stand on. What I think is actually standing in your way is the fear,
Hmm.
right? And that was
Okay.
kind of what I was getting at. Is like the question for you isn't what do I want? It's what am I afraid of? Because stepping into who you are, right? Like we kind of boiled it down. What I'm ultimately afraid of is being who I am without my husband. What does that authentically look like? What
Yeah.
does me taking responsibility for everything actually look like as me without this anchor? So I know you believe that you can have that business where you're making more of that stress-free money. I know
Right.
you believe you're capable of it. And I actually believe the same thing, even though I don't know you, but like it makes sense given like just how I feel talking to you. The gap is actually in the fear of stepping into that.
Okay.
It's being who I need to be to fully embody that belief. And that's what I was talking about before, reconciling the past so it doesn't sabotage your future or your present rather, and then working with what's present with the grief and the identity that he held in the business and the gaps that I have to fill, some of which will be skill gaps, some of which will be identity gaps. So what lands with that?
A lot. What's really resonating is when you said, so the gap is the fear of stepping into really my full power without having my husband there. uh I think the codependent relationship in that sense was, um and coming in from a really powerful past, and then getting married to a guy that liked to take care of a lot of things. I i'm at that cusp of like looking over and going, I don't really like taking care of the finances. I don't really like taking care of, like hiring and firing. I don't like these things. And I've been avoiding that, and definitely have been called out in the last months of like, what the F are you doing? And it's like, and I have to step back and think about that. And that's the other thing. It takes me, and I'm not sure there's a bad thing. It takes me, I would say, almost 10 times the amount of time to process things. So if someone says, my coaching for you is, what the heck are you doing with your budget? And I go, and like, it's like, I just sit there and I have to think about it. And I've never had to do that. Like before, it's like, but I'm like, wait, budget. Okay, wait. What does my budget look like? What are they talking about? And then it's like this slow motion. It's very interesting. And I know that probably will, I hope that that changes. But so yeah, I think that the gap and the thing that I'm really afraid of is money management. He was a financial planner and a very good one. So like, and my dad does my taxes. So like, total hands off. I didn't have to do anything. Sign, sign, sign. Here's my, my check for taxes. Um, and then, so I think I'm really afraid of that, or maybe lazy, if I'm honest. It might not be fear. It might just be like, just.
I
Bleh.
mean, I would disagree with laziness because nobody that's
Okay.
done as much as you is actually a lazy person. You know what I mean? Like, you don't sound to me like a
Yeah,
lazy person. So, what I think
that's
this is
true.
more about is about responsibility.
Yeah.
Take ownership of the business means being responsible for all of the things that either fair, you didn't like to do them, that might be part of it, but you still need to take responsibility for it if you want the business to go where you want it to go. And that doesn't mean abdicate. Like you could still have a tax person and you could still have an accountant and you could still have a financial planner. The problem is, do I abdicate responsibility to not understand these things enough to make decisions around it? Am I afraid of looking at the numbers? Am I afraid I'm going to get things wrong? Like whatever the narrative is going to take you away from the responsibility of knowing those things and hiring people for the outcome or the task. Totally appropriate. But the scary part is taking responsibility. Why? Because when we define success in those, like in that responsibility, we also define failure. Right. One of the things you mentioned early on was like, I'm actually afraid to fail. Well, if you never take responsibility for anything, you also can't fail. Right. So this is what I was saying. There was a lot of aspects that your husband took care of. Now there's a void there that requires you to take responsibility of them if you want to go at the level of business that allows you to make that stress-free profit, to do the travel the way you want, to, all the things you mentioned with the team, et cetera, et cetera. Like that requires a level of responsibility and leadership that means facing all the things you're afraid of. So one on the skill aspect is the numbers and the finances. And then again, all the other things that I don't need to repeat again. Right. But it's like that, like the demands of the business vision that I have are up here. My current capacity in leadership and identity is down here. Part of that gap, at least the activation energy to close it, is actually coming to terms with the fact that I have to face that fear. I have to reconcile and heal within myself the parts that fear this. And then through that, step into and learn the things I need to learn to be the leader that actually make that happen. Right. And that's kind of was telling you about the distinction. Like, I know you believe that's possible and you believe it's possible for you, but that's like, yeah, it's possible for me to climb this mountain, but then I'm afraid of heights. Well, you got to start
Right.
facing the fear of heights if you're going to climb this mountain. Right. And that's essentially the real gap. It's not that you don't have a belief gap. You actually have a courage, skill, and identity gap. Right. Or you could just stay where you are and like you're actually right on point with regards to like, this is what your business looks like. Like just kind of get paid and then like you'll be okay here. But it's like, that's not the desire that you have. You have a desire that's much more fulfilling, much grander, and ultimately much more expansive and evolving. And that's essentially the gap. So, what resonates with that?
No, I like that. Courage, scale, identity. Um, it's interesting because not only, yes, do I agree with you, but looking back at like my relationship with my husband and him taking care of these things and me having my head in the sand truly on certain things, that even that, and even when him around, didn't allow me to get to the next level and to the levels that I was wanting to get to because it was, um, yeah, it was running its course, its circles, its cycle of self-sabotage then, and he was enabling it. As I listened to you say these, I was recognizing like his fears of me and us, I guess, getting to the like me traveling 150 days really scared him. So that never happened when he was here. So like there's different things that I'm recognizing that and also it's interesting, when you're married, like I won't do certain things because I know it bothers him or fear, it triggers his fears. And now that is like it's free, like just I can do whatever. I'm recognizing that I'm still holding back, but also I'm still being having my head in the sand. And
Correct. Because that's the pattern you've repeated for decades,
yeah, yep,
right? So, really,
yep,
what you've just described is your history of that adage of what got you here won't get you there,
Yeah.
because that's essentially where you are right now. Everything that got you here is not going to be the thing that gets you there. That vision that you
Yes.
described of, getting paid, working less but better, reliable team, delegation, clear instructions, bigger impact, right? Like that's the vision. But who you are right now can't actually get you there because there's these, again, leadership identity and skill gaps in that. So is that part clear for you?
Yes. Leadership identity and skill
Yeah.
gaps.
Yeah.
So the skill gaps in, yeah, for me for sure, I think is the I am not taking responsibility for the financial stuff, so I can't fail on that for sure.
Correct. Well, and then that's
I'm
kind of
just like,
like,
whoo,
and that's where the skill
skidding.
and the identity gaps may intersect, which is like there's a skill aspect to looking at the numbers. There's a skill aspect to delegation. There's a skill aspect to writing SOPs. There's a skill aspect in creating your systems to run the business effectively. And then there's also an identity leadership aspect, right? Like a lot of your people pleasing things are going to directly interfere with the delegation portions, right? A lot of the head in the sand avoidance patterns are going to interfere with the skill acquisition of the numbers and whatever you need to know there, right? So they're always going to have an overlap. And then it's like, where's the distortion? Is the distortion on the identity leadership side where like I'm avoiding something, I don't want to face it, I don't want to up level who I am and take responsibility for it. Well, that's directly going to feed into the lack of skill or the distortion of implementing the skill effectively, right? So if we're talking about, and again, I don't know if it's true for you, but I'm just giving a general example of the people pleasing thing. It's like, even if you got the systems, even if you got the perfect team, but then you never actually correct when things go wrong. Okay, well, that's a people pleasing quality. So that's a leadership limit in that instance. Or I'll redo their work, or I'll pay them anyway, even though like they didn't deliver. Like there's all these aspects where that gets distorted, even though you have the right skills in place. Right. So anyway, like this can go into totally different discussion as well, but just what's landing for you, even with that kind of broad strokes reflection.
No, I like that um and I had the people pleasing with my husband. So like um so I wouldn't call accountability and he wouldn't do it on me. And so we could just skid along. And now I'm still doing that, but I'm ready to I hope to do it effectively instead of 5 steps forward and 16 steps back.
Yeah.
Um, so no, that lands. I mean, yeah,
Okay. So, I mean, I know like this is not going to be one of those one-time things and everything's like clear and good and dandy and like we're done, right? Like this is just about illuminating kind of what is in front of you right now. And I'm just saying this for the sake of time. Um, like is it clear for you what the gap is between like where you are and where you want to go, or is there still something left outstanding from that?
I think that there's probably some outstanding things as well, but that they're going to be overshadowed until um, and really possibly not even important because if I don't clean up my people pleasing habits and my head in the sand habits, the other ones don't matter because it
Correct.
just why bother, So no, there are other things, but the main it's just like I got to get this together or stop. Um, and I don't think I have it in me to retire. Uh, I've tried a couple times. I don't think it's gonna happen right now. I think
Yeah.
this information has to get out, so it's like I don't have a choice. But yeah, that's what it feels like. It feels like big rocks, and there's some other little rocks, but they don't define the next year or at least the next months.
Correct. And yeah, I'm glad that that's resonating with you because that is exactly true, right? It's like these are the core pieces that first need to be resolved to make room to resolving the other aspects, right? Again, got to solve the identity, leadership issues, before we worry about the skill gaps and systems and team stuff. Why? Because if the leadership and identity pieces are distorted, then it just trickles downward and you kind of then you get onto that hamster wheel, right? I call that the overwhelm hamster wheel. You're just constantly spinning your wheels trying to do the thing, but it's like it actually gets me nowhere. So, long story short, yes, I agree with you that that is the core crux of that gap. So, um, given that that is clear, are you cool if we move this to a close from that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So why don't you then move us into a close and just let everybody know, where to find you, who's the best person to find you. The floor is yours for that.
Sure. I actually give out my phone number. My phone number is 505-550-6989. Don't call me, text me, or WhatsApp me. I'm out of town right now, quite a bit. I'm out of the country often. And so WhatsApp does get through to me. And you can go to my website. It's ruthcummings.com. And I'm not really on social media very often, but my team has it up there. It's Facebook is at Ruth Cummings Coaching and Instagram at Ruth Cummings Coaching. Um, I'm on Instagram more than Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn, but if you want to get a hold of me and talk to me about how I can support you, I do online body audits and I do in-person VIP days and I do free online classes for your masterminds, any type of group that you have online. But I do charge a little bit to come talk. I love my favorite thing is coming and talking at retreats, and then I get paid there by doing hands-on work for your people. And when I do online, when I do in-person stuff, I bring people on stage and I work on them and show people how their body can change in real time. It's very fun. So that's everything. Thanks for having
Well,
me.
you're very welcome. And again, I just want to acknowledge you since so much of this conversation was about courage, like the courage to kind of do this in this public forum, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
I think it's a big step in that right direction. So
I mentioned that that I'm a widow, and this is the second podcast that I've done that in the last week. So I think I'm making baby steps.
100%. So celebrating you for that. Thank you for allowing us to witness you in this way. And yeah, for everybody else listening, we'll see you on the next one.